Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
I'm Mark Dolan, and I'm so excited about the comedians we've got on Headliners tonight. Sajila Kershi and the other guy. So we've got tomorrow's papers. We've got big opinions and big laughs. I'll see you after the headlines.
Good evening, I'm Miranda Shunker in the GB newsroom. Boris Johnson is to hold talks with Nordic and Baltic leaders where he'll urge them to come together to ensure no other nations fall victim to Russian aggression. The Prime Minister will host a two-day summit from Monday. Those attending will include Denmark, Sweden and Latvia. Downing Street says the group will also discuss how they can help Ukraine rebuild again after the invasion. Earlier, Mr Johnson met with the Irish Premier, Micheál Martin. They agreed on the importance of humanitarian relief, military support to the Ukrainian government and further sanctions to target Vladimir Putin's regime. Well, the leaders of France and Germany have called for an immediate ceasefire in Ukraine during a 75-minute phone call with Vladimir Putin. But a spokesman for the French president says it's clear Putin is not ready to end the war. Ukraine's president says 1,300 Ukrainian soldiers have now died so far in the conflict. Volodymyr Zelensky also warned Russia that it could only take the country's capital, Kiev, if it razes the city to the ground. He also demanded the immediate release of the mayor of Melitopol after footage appeared to show him being kidnapped by Russian troops.
The demand is simple: to release him from captivity immediately. We appeal to all world leaders who speak to Moscow: France, Germany, Israel and others. I have personally called German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. I spoke with French President Emmanuel Macron. I will talk to everyone to free our people.
Well, Ukraine's foreign minister says his country is ready to negotiate with Russia to end the war, but would not surrender or accept any ultimatums. Dmytro Kuleba also called for more military supplies. The Ministry of Defence says the bulk of Putin's troops are now around 15 miles away from the centre of Kiev. The Premier League has disqualified Chelsea owner Roman Abramovich from being a director at the club. It follows sanctions by the UK government, but it won't impact the club's ability to train or play fixtures. Under the new rules, the club can't sell any new tickets or merchandise. And research from the TUC says energy bills could increase at least 14 times faster than wages this year. It says they are set to rise by 54% in April, but average weekly wages will go up by just over 3%. The government says it will be introducing a £21 billion package of support for households. Well, on TV, online and DAB plus radio, this is GB News. Now it's back to Headliners.
It is time for Headliners. I am Mark Dolan, and I'm delighted to say, helping me look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages are the premium comedic talent of Sajila Kershi and Andrew Doyle. Look, we've got lots to get through, light and shade. We've got Ukraine, but we kind of need to talk about other things too, don't we, Sajila?
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. I think we've got some fun stuff as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It is an impossible balance to strike, isn't it, when you're doing news analysis, Andrew, that you cover the big story.
Yes.
It's got huge implications, not just for the region, but for the rest of the world. But there are other things going on in people's lives.
Yeah, it's always the way, isn't it, when one story just dominates. And we will cover them, won't we?
We most certainly will. Light and shade is what Headliners is all about. Let's tomorrow's front pages. And we'll start with the Mail on Sunday. Gove sees oligarch mansions to house refugees. Russian oligarchs' multi-million-pound mansions would be seized and used to house Ukrainian refugees under an extraordinary plan being championed by Michael Gove, the Levelling Up Secretary. So, the Sunday Telegraph next. £350 to host refugees in your home as Britain opens its doors. How about this? An arresting front-page photograph in The Independent. And that is the photograph of an apartment block. Explosions aplenty. Hundreds huddled in a bombed church's basement. Families tap radiators for water. Surrounded by Russian troops, the people of Mariupol tell how they survived 2 weeks in a city under siege. The Independent has a long history of brilliant front-page photographs, and they've done it again today. The Observer next. Gove bids to end refugee chaos with £350 cash for rooms offer, which sounds like quite a smart move. Of course, it will cost the taxpayer money, but there is a strong humanitarian argument in its favour. The Sunday Mirror, 100,000 forgotten Ukraine orphans. Dozens of orphaned babies and toddlers hide in a basement, highlighting the heartbreaking reality of Putin's war. A devastating and shocking photograph indeed. The Sunday Times, they've also got some strong photography on their front page. Another bombed out apartment block. Putin wipes out entire city. And £350 a month, once again, that story there being offered to Brits to host a refugee at home. And also J.K. Rowling rounds on Keir Starmer. He thought he'd made the gender issue go away, but according to our greatest living author, he's made it worse. We'll discuss that later in the show. The Sunday Express, £350 a month. Thank you for giving refuge. A photograph there of a little child called Matvey, who has received much needed and vital food. It's part of that war effort. What a moving and sweet picture that is. And how about the Daily Star Sunday? Intergalactic exclusive. I told the boys in blue about a UFO and got a visit from the men in black. Seen something weird in the sky? Maybe keep it to yourself. A reader told cops he'd seen a UFO, and the next thing, real life men in black came knocking. Well, as long as they don't start rapping. There you go. We talked about light and shade. Well, the Daily Star have achieved that with their front page. And those are your front page headlines. And we lead with the Sunday Telegraph. I've quoted that story a couple of times. £350 a month to take in a Ukrainian refugee. Sajila, a good move? Money well spent?
Yeah, I think it's a great move. I mean, £350 for people to take in a refugee, personally, I've got, my son's not living there at the moment, so I've got a room free. I'd probably do it for free. But
you'd take me for 100.
I'd take you for 100. I'd take you. I'll tell you what. I'll throw in breakfast. I can't cook for one person, so I'd be quite happy.
So now you're just talking about running a bed and breakfast, aren't you? This is
okay, but without
issue, really.
payment, I'll be doing a good thing. But I tell you what, I am not a fan of Michael Gove, but he's come up with a genius plan, a brilliant Schadenfreude, right? Because he's basically saying Russian oligarchs' multi-billion-pound mansions should be seized, and we should use them to house Ukrainian refugees. What a top plan.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's headline grabbing.
Yeah.
Is it a gimmick, though?
It probably is a gimmick, but I would love to see, why can't we implement things like this? Because we say, people say sort of these things. Do you not think?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I mean,
Yeah.
because the problem with all of this stuff and sort of saying £350 to take in a refugee, but should it be the responsibility of individual citizens to be? Shouldn't the government be finding some way to deal with this? Because we have a great tradition in this country of taking in refugees in times of war from all over the world, and it is something that we should continue to do. But it feels like the government's kind of outsourcing it a bit and sort of not dealing it with themselves. Whereas if they did actually implement this idea of seizing oligarchs' houses, I don't think it will happen.
I want, if these billionaires have made their money off the backs of suffering, then I think that they must face justice, of course, and possibly have their assets stripped. But I'm a bit worried that this is a bit of a land grab of all Russian assets. And if you've got a Russian surname, you're going to have your collar felt.
Oh, well, that would be obviously wrong.
Yeah, but don't you think it doesn't really feel like due process? It was like, oh, there's a mansion, we'll take that.
Presumably,
it feels like, something that...
Presumably this would be more targeted than
this.
that, won't it? I mean, this wouldn't be...
Hope so.
It wouldn't just be like, oh, someone's name ends in "of," so let's grab their house. I think it would be, it would be following an investigation regarding the connections with Putin.
But you do bring
Yeah,
up...
but I know what you mean. But it could potentially be something of a witch hunt, don't you think?
I think you have a point, and it's been something that I've been concerned about, that whenever there is a conflict, we kind of, we do demonise that country, like when it was, so I think that of course, there is
wouldn't it take a
aspect.
long time to prove links that a millionaire or a billionaire has with the Kremlin? It's not something you just do a quick Google search. Yeah, it's a fair cop, take his mansion.
I would have thought the government knows who I mean, they must do, because
and of course, Theresa May back in the day, when she was Prime Minister, would not grant Roman Abramovich British citizenship for that very reason.
Right. So I mean, they know about the links. They must do.
Yeah.
This has been going on for a long time. But I share Sajila's concern that whenever there is a war, if I think about when my mother was living in Birmingham at the time of the height of the Troubles, she would get abuse all the time just because of her accent, and I think we do have to be a bit wary about this, about just, like you say, just tarring all Russians with the same brush. It's not really fair.
Yeah, that's right. Well, look, if any of those mansions become available on the open market, if there's a bargain to be had, you should get on it. Sunday's Independent next, and they are reporting on J.K. Rowling's latest Twitter activities, Andrew.
Yes, so J.K. Rowling has been really strong on this issue, and this is obviously this ongoing discussion about gender identity, ideology, and how it impacts on women's rights and gay rights. And over the last few days, she's been tweeting about this, ever since International Women's Day, actually, she's been tweeting about this in a very intelligent and insightful way. And
she's actually quite a good writer, isn't she?
there is, apparently she has that skill.
I
right?
would consider, if she went into writing, I would read her stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. She should think about writing a book. But I think, this is really important, that you have figures like this who are prepared to make these very important points, when at the moment politicians seem unable to say what a woman is. Or you've got Keir Starmer, we've got this on Radio 4, we had Yvette Cooper saying, when she was asked what a woman was, she didn't want to go down the rabbit hole of definition. Annalise Dodds, similarly, this is ridiculous. A woman is an adult human female that produces the larger gametes and typically has XX chromosomes. This isn't difficult. Every child who does a biology GCSE knows this. So the idea that politicians can't say it, and in fact Keir Starmer's got to the point where he's misrepresenting the law, the Equality Act, which does indeed protect sex as a protected characteristic. This is why, when you have prisons, when you have domestic violence refuge centres, they are single sex, right? There's a reason for that. And people have the right in a liberal society to identify however they like, to transition, to do whatever they want. No one's denying that. No one at all is suggesting that they shouldn't be able to do so. But women's rights do have to be protected in terms of these spaces. And you can't just identify yourself into those spaces. And
would you extend that to women's sport as well?
Of course. I mean, that's just not the reason why sport was segregated into male and female, was in order for women to be able to participate in sport. That's historically why it happened, because if you don't have sex-segregated sport, women don't win anything. That's just the reality of it, and everyone knows this. What bothers me about this is that everyone knows this to be true, apart from a sort of minority of activists online, and for some reason they seem to be dominating the conversation. Well, enough is enough. Let's not be intimidated. J.K. Rowling isn't intimidated because they can't cancel her because she's too rich and powerful. And we need more people like that, and particularly politicians, just to say, look, we have to accept the reality of biological sex and how that impacts on law and on women's rights, and not try and fudge it with this stupid sort of definitional prestidigitation that they keep doing.
Gender ideology, it denies the idea that there are two biological sexes.
No, what it says is that effectively it conflates sex and gender. And what it says is that we have an innate kind of sexed soul, a kind of something within us. Now, people are free to believe that in the way that people are free to believe in any religious conviction. I don't mind if you say that you have a sort of sexed, gendered soul, which is different from your body.
Spirit, you could be in a man's body, but your spirit is female.
Fine, and that's fine for you to believe that. And I have nothing but sympathy for people with gender dysphoria. It's not easy, right? You have to go through medical procedures, psychological procedures. You have to pass as the other sex. It's hard, and those people deserve protection in law as well, which they do have. But that should not entail a denial of the biological reality that we are a sexually dimorphic species and the implications of that in terms of safeguarding.
Yeah, I mean, I'll come to Sajila as a woman.
The woman.
I can't imagine she's got very much interesting to say about it, but let's us boys sort this out. No, I jest, of course. But what I just drilling further into this, just the political aspect of it. Do you think that Labour are hurting themselves with this? Because half of the voting population are biological females. And I think more and more women are going to get increasingly angry about how they see their rights being curtailed in this way.
Yeah.
In this philosophy, this ideology that Labour seem to be signed up to.
That's exactly right. Similarly with the SNP, similarly with the Greens, it is very damaging electorally, right? Because particularly women.
So why are they doing it? Why are Labour doing that? Keir Starmer wants to be Prime Minister. Why is he pissing off half the population?
Well, Sajid, what do
Let
you
me,
think?
as speaking for over half the population,
Can you do that?
By the way,
yeah,
I think we can agree the better half.
yes. Well, the thing is, obviously, I don't know how this issue has been allowed to get so out of hand. I mean, it really is getting ridiculous. It's not just a passing thing. In terms of Labour, I'm going to sort of like kind of sit on the fence and also slightly defend them. I think post all the anti-Semitic stuff, I think they're just scared of doing the wrong thing. And Stonewall was very kind of like very draconian in that kind of like, well, you know, trans women are women, and that's it. We've all got to accept that. Even I was saying that, and I was like, but that isn't my reality. That's not, you know, what about my rights? And that's really important. So I do think that they're probably just being pussyfooting, but they do need to make a stance on this. Otherwise, they are going to lose. And you can just see Twitter. You can see any woman that you speak to anywhere. We had the debate yesterday. And I wonder if it is a generational thing, because the lovely young man who was with us,
Jason Reed,
yeah, he had a very, very different, you know, opinion. And even like calling cis woman, I really, really don't like being called cis woman. No one sent me the memo. No one's asked me my permission. And I don't want to be labelled that, and I don't want...
What's the problem with cis woman? Does it feel like you're being downgraded, or what's the problem?
No, it's just, I am just woman. I am woman, phenomenally woman. That's it. You know, I don't need any other... No one... If you want to ask me, you can call me lady, you can call me, you know, you can call me other things. Diva, but...
You could be more than a woman.
I am more than a woman, yeah.
That's a lyric from the Bee Gees.
But I don't know how it's got so out of control.
Much the work of the Bee Gees is the prism through which I see the world.
I think the point about cis as a phrase is it means someone whose gender identity, who feels that their gender identity matches their birth sex, right? But that only makes sense if you believe in gender identity, and 99% of people don't. So to call someone a cis woman is incoherent. Right, they have to embrace the label themselves, and as Sajid was just saying, most women don't. So the phrase itself is redundant. And
in the same way that making people announce their pronouns at the beginning of a meeting or an email is the same thing, that you're superimposing gender ideology onto others who haven't signed up to it.
It's a test. That's a test to see whether you're on board with the ideology. This is religious stuff. That's what this is. And, you know, I think as a liberal, everyone should be able to, are entitled to their beliefs. But it stops when they try to impose those beliefs on others, and that's precisely what's happening here.
We would normally be doing about 3 or 4 stories at this point in the show, but it's a unique and important story. I want to ask you both, before we get to our next story, how this plays out. What do you think, Sajila?
I think the tide is moving to the other way, where we're getting a better bit. Before we kind of literally blindly accepted this, and myself included, because I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I didn't want to...
Or be called transphobic.
Yeah, but I'm not transphobic. That's the whole point.
But the fear of being called it is quite a weapon, isn't it?
It's weaponising. It's weaponising.
Because it could, as a comedian, for example, it could get any of us cancelled from gigs, couldn't it?
Absolutely. And I think that it's good that women need to speak out. If you don't feel comfortable about this, you need to say so, because every woman I speak to has an issue with it. And apart from very much younger people, but I know that people watching this may think that we're being transphobic. We're not. I am so pro-trans rights. Absolutely, 100%. We know so many on the circuit as well, guys, you know.
It's not a life choice, it's who you are.
It's who you are, exactly. But that said, this is a very dangerous way to go. We're in danger of losing a lot of our civil liberties because of this one issue.
The Labour Party seem to be in the grip of this ideology. Rosie Duffield, who's a Labour MP, wasn't able to attend the last Labour Party conference for fear of her personal safety after attacks and death threats, including from Labour members and former Labour members. So that institution seems to have been taken over to a degree, especially if we're to listen to the words of Keir Starmer, and our other institutions and corporations as well. So I think we're losing this fight, Andrew.
Yes, but that example that you just gave of Rosie Duffield explains why we are losing, and it is intimidation. It is bullying. It is the fear of being called transphobic. Now, I don't know any transphobes, but I know a lot of people who've been told that they're transphobes, and they're nothing of the kind. So the problem is that word has just become a kind of catch-all slur, a way to sort of demonise someone for asking questions, important questions that we should be able to discuss. And the fact that the debate has reached this infantile level where people can't talk about stuff that we need to talk about. And let's not forget that an awful lot of trans people share the concerns that we've both been raising. Okay, so this isn't like you say there's a monolithic view among the trans community about there absolutely isn't.
No.
And a lot of trans people are very much aware that this kind of stuff is making their lives worse. It's not helping them.
Perhaps a bit like so-called anti-racism might be brewing more intolerance for people in a black and minority ethnic situation. So that's good. And how do you see this playing out then?
Ultimately, there is the brick wall of reality, which you will always run into, right? So we can keep
that
denying
pesky
it.
brick wall.
Yeah, you can keep denying it. You can keep saying there's a biological sex itself is a transphobic construct, but ultimately, when it comes to it, it isn't. and there is the reality that will win out. It has to.
Yeah. Well, look, a fascinating conversation. It will, of course, continue. Sunday's Sun are reporting on a ban on a proposed smoking for Gen Z, Sajila. So let's repeat that. Sunday's Sun are reporting on a ban on a proposed smoking for Gen Z's. Sajila, tell us more.
So under 25s could be banned from buying cigarettes in a bid to make UK smoke-free in less than a decade. So under 25s, I don't know why we've targeted them. I suppose because like when you're young, it does seem cool. So Javed Khan is leading this in an independent review of the government's ambition to make the country smoke-free by the end of the decade. Now, the Sun have, in their usual subtle, slightly tinged with bigotry, are calling Javed the new anti-smoking czar. Right.
What a gig.
Well, and so basically he's trying to get young people to stop smoking, and we have tried putting the prices up. We've tried giving loads of videos of this bad for you, the pictures that got like heart diseases and stuff on packets of cigarettes, which is enough to actually put me off. But I quite like the New Zealand model. When I went to New Zealand, you're only allowed to bring in 10 cigarettes for duty free. It's massively expensive there. Nobody smokes. And so all the cool people are actually inside the bars, not like here where And so what I think we need to do, people, is we need to target the cool people who are smoking, who go outside and bring all the gang and they think, oh, God, we're missing out on something. If you can get them to stop smoking, then I think that's the way to go. Because if the cool people are not smoking, then the ones... It's just a theory.
You're right. It's all about where the cool people go, isn't it?
It's where the cool people go. They're going outside to have a fag and then...
Well, I don't smoke, and I like to consider myself one of the cool people, right? But I mean, look, I think where we probably part company on this is I don't think the government should be telling adults what they can or cannot put in their body. And I think that under 20... Adults are 18 plus, right? Under 25, you're sort of saying, like, we're going to make this decision for you. What you need to do is, let people know about the risks. They've been pretty good on that. Everyone knows about the risks. Like you say, you see those packets and you've got the horrific images of what goes on inside your body when you smoke. As far as I can see, it's a no-brainer. It's obviously self-destructive to smoke, but I also support anyone's right. If they want to do that, that's their choice, right? I think this idea of banning young people...
What does an anti-smoking czar actually do? Do they go around like with a big bucket of water and just chuck it at smokers?
But when I was young, when I was a student, I was asked to help with an advertising campaign to basically to get rid of smoking in the South Asian community. I mean, the one they came up with was just awful. It was like an Aladdin, coming out with a genie, and I was like, okay, we need to start from scratch, guys.
Sounds quite problematic. That.
We need to really get rid of all of this.
I can see the logic of that.
I know. It was just so awful. But yeah, we couldn't though, because it is addictive. In spite of what you say, it's massively addictive, more addictive than any drug, than any alcohol. Yeah. And to give up, it's really hard. So I think probably they need, if you want to give up, and I kind of think why you're saying that. Yeah. But if you want to give up, but I also think, I'd like my son not to, get into something so awful. We should encourage them to give up.
I'm all for encouragement. I'm not for legislating or banning things for certain people within the population.
It'll just make it cooler. If you ban it, we'll make it cooler.
Will.
Yeah.
It probably will.
Well, I tend to, and I wouldn't take sides, but I think I'm closer to Andrew on this one, partly because of what we've been through with vaccine mandates. Again, I'm super pro-vaccine and I'm triple jabbed. But again, making people have the vaccine is what's created vaccine hesitancy, dictating to people about smoking. What's next? You're banned from eating ice cream.
Well, it's like alcohol. I mean, we know alcohol's bad for us, but it's really enjoyable, right? I mean, it just
alcohol it doesn't have those horrible photos. That's what it's the photos on those cigarettes are awful.
There you go. Well, look, let's have a couple of whiskies, shall we, during this break? Just to liven up the panel, I think you'll agree we've got so much more to talk about because we've got all of tomorrow's papers. We'll be discussing Tchaikovsky, children's phones, and why none of us will be relocating to Saudi Arabia anytime soon. Never say never, though. See you shortly.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
Make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel.
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
That you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Mark Dolan, someone that identifies as a GB News presenter. I'm also delighted to welcome the rather expensive and demanding divas that are Sajila Kershi and Andrew Doyle. That said, they're worth every penny, plus they're rather elaborate riders for this show. Now let's get to our next story. The Observer are reporting that unfettered access to mobile phones is restricting social mobility, Andrew.
Yes, so this is Catherine Burble-Singh, who is the headmistress of the Michaela School. And she has a very interesting approach to schooling generally, which is all about discipline. And one of the great things about the Michaela School is that it's inner city kids, it's kids from lower income brackets, and they just enforce strict. I mean, when I say strict, it's things like you're not allowed to talk in the corridors, or the kids have to face forward in class. If you forget your pen, you get a detention. I mean, all stuff that feels very sort of draconian. But you know what? Their results are brilliant, right? Their results are undeniably brilliant. These kids' lives are changed as a result. The kids love it. Yeah. They love the structure, right? Now, this makes me sound like an old Tory or something. But when it comes to socialisation of kids and education, kids really thrive when you give them those boundaries, right? Part of it, what she's saying, is about smartphones. And she's saying one of the big challenges for teachers at the moment is smartphones. That the way to improve social mobility, the way to get these poorer kids to earn more as adults, to grow and to be educated, is to get rid of the phones. And she actually has a system where, for a start, the kids aren't allowed phones at the school, right? They're just not allowed them. But they're also encouraged to hand them in for weeks at a time, particularly leading up to the exams. This article says that half of the Year 11 pupils have voluntarily given up their phones before for the weeks leading up to their GCSE exams, right? Wonderful. They've voluntarily done it. And it works. They completely are disconnected from that world, the internet, which is a distraction, let's face it. And I feel like I should follow this lead. I feel like it sucks up so much of my time.
I agree.
I would take your phone off you, but I'm not sure I want to see all its contents.
Well, I mean,
that's a shame.
We've both got our
I mean, I
phones
think
here.
the photo library on your iPhone wouldn't be for the faint-hearted.
Well, I'll show you afterwards and you can tell me what you think.
Yeah. Show me which way up the photos go.
Oh, you'll be able to work it out.
So, Gina, what do you think?
I
this
think
is
it's
to
a
speak
brilliant
against
idea.
a liberal education, that you've got to be strict.
Well, it's interesting that earlier on you said we don't want to tell young people what to do, and now you're saying they need boundaries.
No,
but you're
adults.
older.
That's the
Okay,
distinction.
adults.
I say we don't. I say, just to clarify, because I think that's important. I think if you want to be an autonomous adult, you have to be effectively socialised as a child. Once you hit 18, adult, do what you want.
Yeah.
But I think more discipline as
I agree that boundaries never always worked with us when we were young. We didn't have any mobile phones. I don't know how the hell our parents let us out because there was no we just went home when it was dark. It's about dinner time. Go home. We played. We interacted with each other. We built tree houses and things that the kids would never do today. So I think I'd like to take a leaf out of this, because when I completely shut off from my phone when I've been away for a month, it is a massive detox, and you don't need it. And also your self-worth as an adult, as me as an adult, I hate seeing things that oh my God, their careers go really well. Oh my God, they're doing this or they're doing that.
Yeah.
It's. I don't.
You don't have that problem anymore, do you?
No, because I'm doing well, people.
Now they're doing it to you,
Yeah,
Sabrina.
I know. Be well, gel at home. Be well, gel.
Yeah. But that's it. I mean, I think that the point is that the mobile phone has no place in the classroom.
No.
It's very clear.
Oh no, absolutely not. And I know most schools wouldn't let the kids just be scrolling on their. But when I was at a school, I was teaching at a school where they introduced what they called iPads for all of the kids as an experiment. They did it with one class, and of course they just spent all their time on games and things because you can't really see what they're doing. It's not a good idea. I think just keep them disconnected from the web during the school time. Books are what we should bring back. More of them. Oh, look at you both. Look at this.
What?
Yeah, very clever.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Snapchat. Wait, which way is that? Is that Andrew?
Yeah, sorry about that.
His face is sort of fuzzed out. Let's move on. Now, you may recall a blogger imprisoned in Saudi Arabia for blasphemy a decade ago. The Sunday Telegraph have an update on his situation. Very serious story, this, Sajila.
Okay, so I remember when this happened. Raif Badawi, very good-looking young man. He was sent to prison because he had a blog. They set up a blog called the Liberal Saudi Network, an online forum to debate religious and political matters back in 2008. So he was imprisoned, and a judge recommended that he be charged with apostasy, which carries a death sentence, really serious, because he didn't think that he repented enough to God. Now, I'm not judging anyone who's religious or practices, each their own. But I think that's for God to decide if God exists at the end of this sort of journey. Yeah. But anyway, what he got was 1,000 public lashes and a 10-year in prison sentence. And they gave him 50 of these lashes. And it was very memorable because he had a white shirt, like I said, a good-looking man, white shirt at Saudi Arabia's Jeddah Square by security. And obviously, he was really poorly after that. 50 lashes. They were going to give him 50 lashes. After the first 50, world outcry, and obviously everybody managed to stop any more lashes. But he's now free, but because he has a travel ban, he can't leave the country. Now, I remember his wife, Ensaf Haider, who by coincidence follows me on Twitter and had asked me to retweet and stuff in the past, fearlessly and tirelessly been trying to get him released. And they've got children as well. She's really shocked by this. He's free, but she obviously just wants to get him home.
And she's in Canada now, is that right?
Canada,
but he can't get there to be with the family. I mean, it's terrible.
It's an absolute tragedy and a shocker, and tells you a lot about that regime. Moving on now, and we stay in Saudi Arabia once more, and someone called Norris McWhirter, the House of Saud, have broken some grim world records, Andrew.
Oh, this is horrible. I mean, so this is the mass execution in Saudi Arabia, 81 people in a single day. And this actually surpassed the toll of the previous record, if you want to call it a record. January 1980, there was a mass execution for 63 militants who had seized the Grand Mosque in Mecca in 1979. So, and apparently the current mass execution is of Al-Qaeda members, Islamic State, so terrorists. And look, I have literally no sympathy whatsoever with terrorists and people who are murdering and raping and committing these atrocities, but I'm very much against the death penalty. And given Saudi Arabia's a terrible record on human rights generally, I can't make my peace with it. I think it's appalling.
I couldn't agree more. Well, look, let's move on now. An update on that Tchaikovsky story from a few days ago from The Observer. Sajila, take us back to where this started.
Okay, so if you recall that the Cardiff Philharmonic Orchestra banned Tchaikovsky music from their concert in what they thought was in support of Ukraine. They've had a bit of a back foot now because people have complained and sort of said, look, you don't want to remove this. Members of the orchestra were said to saying among those who had voiced reservations about playing it in the first place, but they're saying it's not necessarily him because I've got some other Russian composers. It's the fact that the particular, I can't see it. Where is it?
It's because there's cannon fire in the 1812 overture, and they're saying that's inappropriate because of the military aspect. But so it's not because he's Russian.
No, it's because it's a military bit, and it's like it sort of glorifies war and past kind of glories of Russia. The guy is dead. How long now?
1893 he died.
Yeah,
that's quite a while.
Almost 150 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say though, it reminds me a bit of. Do you remember during the Iraq War where the BBC radio wouldn't play Phil Collins' song "In the Air Tonight" because it was too reminiscent of bombs, so it went on that. And I sort of think, look, again, I come back to this. People are adults. We can deal with it. We don't need to be shielded and protected. And classical music fans who want to go and hear a rendition of the 1812 overture are not going to be triggered by the military connotations to the piece.
I am triggered by. Sorry,
go on. Yeah, go on.
I am triggered a little bit about "In the Air Tonight" because, excuse me, that was Miami Vice.
It's a very good.
That was Miami Vice. That is not. I never thought anything about war. I was like, how dare you ruin that memory for me? Yeah. Miami Vice. Do you remember suits like yours?
100% Don Johnson.
Yeah, Don Johnson.
I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
All right. We'll
I'm not familiar with this cultural reference.
No, I used to love Miami Vice, and that's what kicked off my lifelong fascination with cocaine.
Wow.
Goodness me.
The illegal trade in it, which I condemn, but which makes for great telly.
Don't you think, by the way, that, like some of the reactions about the war in terms of American bars pouring Smirnoff down the drain because but it's not in Russian, it's a British company, right? They didn't even research that.
Of course not. Well, they wouldn't need to because that's what happens with virtue signalling, right?
Exactly. And similarly with the Ritz, was it the Ritz who stopped serving White Russian cocktails? Brilliant. Which are delicious.
Yeah. I got to say, I had Russian eggs earlier today. It gave me indigestion.
Yeah.
I had trouble passing them because of the war.
It's a sign.
Must you be so graphic, Mark? I don't need to know about your bowels.
Do you know what Russian eggs are?
No.
So you boil them and you hollow out the yolk.
Yeah.
And you mix the yolk with mayonnaise and pickles and then put that mix back in to the egg white again.
Eggs.
Yeah, they're very similar.
Deviled Russian eggs. So even deviled, it's like deviled,
Russia.
Russia.
There's a clue here. But also, there's a New York restaurant, which is a Russian restaurant, and they're going out of business because New Yorkers are not going there because of the war.
Yeah.
This is getting silly now, isn't it?
Have caviar sales gone down?
Oh, I suspect so. I reckon there's a lot of eggs stuck in a port somewhere.
I mentioned this the other day, but it does remind me of the way that the British during the Second World War reacted to Dachshunds, to sausage dogs, and were stamping them to death on the streets.
No.
That's horrible.
Because they were German, right? So, and I just think we have to not go back to that bleak kind of xenophobic, frankly, worldview. It's okay to have a White Russian. You're not endorsing Putin or his regime. You're just having a delicious cocktail that I would heartily recommend.
Well, I'm delighted to say that I've got 2 White Russians waiting for me outside in a cab when I finish the show. I'll let you know how I get on. The Sunday Times now and Disney have responded to outrage from its staff over political sponsors. Andrew.
Yeah, so this is this Don't Say Gay bill in Florida. And what I hadn't realised, so this is effectively, the Republicans in Florida have sort of tried to draw up this bill which would say that we don't discuss gender and sexuality with young kids, sort of kindergarten age kids. And apparently Disney has been drawn into this row because Disney had made political donations to the bill's sponsors. So now people are criticising Disney. You see how this works. But it's a weird one because I was looking it up. I was looking up the bill itself. The language of the bill is very, very vague, and therefore it's being interpreted in completely different ways depending on who is looking at it, I think, if you're a teacher, obviously I've been a teacher, and the idea that you wouldn't mention the reality that some people are gay to a kid makes no sense at all because they are living in this world, the real world, like I said, reality is that brick wall, right? And the idea that you wouldn't mention that seems weird. But saying to a kid, there are 100 different genders, and, oh, by the way, if you're a tomboy, you might actually be a boy in a girl's body, or that kind of thing, that is a problem, right? So there is a sort of proper discussion to be had here. The problem is they've couched it in such vague legislation that we don't really know what it means. And that's always the problem with legislation. It should be as specific as it could be, I think.
Yeah, I think they've definitely got themselves in quite a tangle on that one. Fascinating story, though. Well, that's it for this part of the show, but we've saved our best till last, let me tell you. Coming up, we'll be discussing the virtues of wine. Where does that list end? Cultural appropriation at Crufts, and whether school trips are a waste of time. See you in 2.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Mark Dolan. Tonight, in the esteemed company of the peerless Sajila Kershi, and peerless as in he hasn't got many friends, Andrew Doyle. Very, very harsh, deep.
Poor Andrew.
Well, I'm your friend, Andrew, and always will be. Poor you. Now, The Observer are reporting that Mark Zuckerberg is tightening his purse strings. Sajila, who is Mark Zuckerberg?
Okay, Mark Zuckerberg, if you did not know, is the top dog for Facebook. But the parent company to Facebook is Meta.
Yeah.
And Meta, working for Meta, like if you remember The Intern for Google, remember the Intern, the film? And they worked for Google, and Google was amazing and had all these wonderful things. And I've had a gig at Twitter, and oh my God, it's amazing. They give you so many goodies. I was like stuffing M&Ms. Okay, that was probably stealing, but I had a few extra M&Ms. So anyway, working at Meta is that kind of environment. So what he's done is he's basically said, and Paul Didham's the Facebook parent company tells workers they will no longer receive free valet service and meals will be delayed. So the perks that they have is they don't get their laundry done. They get their laundry done on site due to company cutbacks. And they've decided that, because they can eat as much as they want in the restaurant, they've decided the meals will now be at 6:30 because 6 o'clock is the last free bus that they can get out. And
yeah, but apparently it says here there was a lot of employees were stuffing 10 steaks in their boxes to take them home and really exploiting the system. I mean, worse than you with the M&Ms from the sound of things.
Yeah.
You know?
And
this is the problem with philanthropic organisations. It's annoying people that abuse it and it spoils it for the rest of us.
Well, it's the reason why clothes are so expensive at Marks and Spencer's, because it's because of all the shoplifting. And so we all pay for the shoplifters. I heard that straight from a Marks and Spencer's employee.
Wow. Do you know what also?
Shocker.
Do you know what he calls his workers? They're called Meta Mates.
Meta Mates.
So listen, Meta Mates at home, right, who've been abusing 9 states home, you know who you are, stop it.
Meta losers, if you ask me. Well, many thanks to GB News, who continue to launder all of my clothes, including my smalls. 90 degrees, a bit of Ariel does the job. The Mail on Sunday now, and we can all attest to alcohol's ability to enhance our appreciation for otherwise unappealing things, such as kebabs or Mad Sandra, who hangs out at the back of Greg's. But it turns out wine may enhance our higher cultural faculties too, Andrew.
Yes, so apparently they've done this blind study where they've given people these various different wines and they've played different music as they drink the wines. And it turns out that classical music enhances your appreciation of wine. You actually end up, I mean, some of these people some of these participants actually said that they thought they were drinking different wines depending on the music that was being played. So if you're drinking to Rachmaninoff or if you're drinking to Brahms, it will be a different experience. I can sort of believe this. I mean, it sounds extraordinary, but if you think about it, I suppose, that alcohol has an effect on your brain and taste and sound. These things are all intimately connected. You can tell I'm a biologist here. I have no understanding, but I can believe it. I think it makes sense. I like listening to classical music while drinking wine anyway, just as a kind of posturing thing. It makes me feel sophisticated, even though I'm not.
Do you wear a smoking jacket as well?
I can't afford one, but yeah, I should. That's what I should do. Of course, I should go the whole hog.
Yeah, and cigar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Classical music is also quite relaxing, I think.
It is.
Unless it's the really sort of triumphant military stuff that's been cancelled in Wales.
Yeah, if it's not, as long as it's not the 1812 overture.
Yeah. But I mean, I immediately, jazz or classical music, I completely relax, and I guess that might put me in the mood to enjoy a bit of wine. But it also works for me, like, for example, lager tastes better to status quo.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
But that suits it, doesn't it? You wouldn't play status quo if you're having a cheeky Chablis, but you would for a Stella. I mean, that makes total sense to me. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Gin and tonic, Elton John.
No, Nana Muscuri.
Nana Muscuri.
Yeah.
Probably
gin and tonic.
No,
with
I
some
think some
Cypriot
white
lemons.
wine. Yeah.
Or is it Greece? I better be careful. Let's not misnationalise the lovely Nana Muscuri. Sunday Times next, and even dogs are falling foul of cultural appropriation, Sajila.
OK, so first when I read the story, so let's just read the headline. So it's Crufts 2022, Pocahontas routine criticised as cultural appropriation. A Crufts performance has been condemned as being culturally inappropriate and racist. Initially, I was thinking, oh my God, really? Please, are dogs being culturally appropriating now? And then I realised, OK, no. It's the owner, Iran Crofts, she was dressed as Pocahontas. And I thought, OK. And then I read that they were playing the music. We're talking about music. They're playing the music and they're doing the routine from Pocahontas. And I thought, well, that's not racist. They're just doing a Pocahontas routine. And then I thought, well, hang on a minute. That means our little girls, like my little nieces, who are dressing up as Princess Jasmine or Pocahontas or Ariel the Mermaid, are they culturally appropriating as a mermaid?
Mermaids culture.
Yeah.
I mean, possibly.
It must be stopped. Stop dressing our little girls up.
The sad thing about this is I wanted to see the video, but there've been such a backlash, they've taken the video down, so I can't even see and judge for myself whether this... I mean, I get that you can have racially insensitive portrayals, and maybe she did. But I can't see it, so I don't know.
I've seen a photo, and it's not becoming. I just think a grown woman dressed as Pocahontas looked a bit kind of weird. But I mean, I think it's for Native Americans to kind of make that call.
How many Native Americans complain? Do we know?
I don't think any.
That's a surprise.
They don't watch Crufts.
No, that might be the issue here then.
Just a couple of white middle-class people in North London, perhaps.
I'm outraged.
What a dog-awful story that is. Now, it turns out the idea of museums being beneficial to your child's education is nothing more than a middle-class fever dream. Andrew?
Yeah, this is very interesting. This is a report that said there is no correlation between exam grades and exposure to what they call middle-class outings. So, taking them to the Tate Britain or something like that, or some kind of museum. And they say that actually the best way to improve young people's GCSE results and that kind of thing is through reading activities at home, just reading books and discussing them with the family. And that is absolutely the case. It's why you shouldn't have Kindles. You should have books in the house so that kids can explore and expand their literary horizons. But I would say it's probably the wrong way to look at it. The idea that is this museum trip going to get a better grade for my kid is the wrong way round, I think. You should be taking kids to museums for its own sake, for the fact that cultivating an appreciation of history and art is valuable irrespective of whether it translates into better grades.
Well, I was dragged to museums when with the school. All it served was me and the girls used to find other boys who were having a trip as well and flirt with them.
Yeah.
And one of them had a cigarette and we smoked a cigarette and felt sick and vomited because we didn't know how to smoke.
Have you been banned from the British Museum by any chance?
No, we didn't get banned because we were too young. But though it did implant a desire to go to these places when I was older, and I made sure that I took my son to a lot of these things, but he probably did the same thing. I don't know. But I agree with you, you know, the
it
reading...
can have I totally agree. I know that a lot of school trips are just a DOS day, aren't they?
Yeah.
And kids are just using it to have it. But every now and then something happens. You know, I remember going to an art gallery when I was a kid, and I was struck by... I was so cynical about modern art, and I saw these Rothkos, and I thought, this is a waste of time, it's just daubs on a... And then someone mentioned to me, well, you realise no one is speaking within this room full of Rothkos. And I realised it's true. It was having an impact. Something was happening in that room where people were just instinctively going quiet because of these sort of imposed... And it had an impact on me as a kid. I thought, actually, there's something to this. This is having... You know, I don't know what that was, but it's not just nicking off for a fag behind the...
And it's something to behold this art face to face.
It is, it really is.
To really look at it in 3 dimensions,
I think
whether it's artifact or art.
Well, I think the way to do it would be to introduce art history into the curriculum from a very young age. Young kids learning to consider art and think about it and appreciate it. Yeah. And then by the time they get to the galleries, that kind of thing will be second nature. But we don't do that. We don't.
Too right. I completely agree. Well, let's hope those museum visits continue. The Observer once more, and the new vegan world order slowly inches nearer.
OK, so gluten-free vegetarian pies, is the one right? Gluten-free vegetarian pie takes top prize at Melton Mowbray contest. Now, reading this article, I got really hungry and I was like, oh, I really fancy this. So the vegetarian jackfruit steak gluten-free craft ale black pepper pie minister moulus pie beat everyone at 976 entrants. And that sounds really bland, but it looks lush. And I have seen, like, jackfruit is like a magic fruit. And I saw a programme once, like they were making fish and chips, and they made cod out of this jackfruit and fried it, and then they brought it out. And it looks just like cod, and people couldn't tell the difference. This is for someone who hasn't actually tasted it herself, but it does look lovely.
It's pretty grim. I've tried
it. Have you tried it?
No one had heard of jackfruit 3 years ago, and all of a sudden it's everywhere. I found it pretty awful, actually. So I'm sceptical about this pie. Speaking as a vegetarian, by the way, you know, I should be on side with the whole jackfruit.
It's going your way at the moment.
Yeah, sure, we're winning, but that's not a good-looking pie to me.
Do you think it was a sympathy win?
It could be, couldn't it?
Yeah.
It could be sort of saying that we're really progressive, so we're going to support the jackfruit thing.
Yeah.
I find it bland. I've tried. Oh, look, yeah, each to their own. Live and let live. If you want a jackfruit, knock yourself out. Not with a jackfruit.
Well, he's a vegetarian, so he's the expert.
Too right. Well, look, let's move on now, because it turns out narcissism and extreme mountaineering don't mix, Andrew.
Yes, apparently there has been a spate of accidents in the Scottish Highlands because this is to do with Instagram luring climbers to danger in Scotland's mountains. The reason actually is because of the pandemic largely. We've got these staycations. So a lot of people looking for things to do. They're seeing on Instagram people posting their things from up Ben Nevis or wherever it might be. So dangerous though, right? So there've been a number of fatalities. There've been the rescue teams have been called out more than usual. I know someone, a friend of mine, who climbed Ben Nevis, and she told me about, she wrote a comedy show about it, actually, because she almost died up there. It is absolutely terrifying to climb Ben Nevis, and really, really dangerous, and you really have to know what you're doing. And all these people looking on Instagram saying, oh, that looks fun, we'll go at Ben. No, you need to really prepare and really try. I'd never do it. I'm Butlins for me. I'm not doing anything like that.
I think it's mostly men as well, and I don't think it is Instagram. I think it's like that for their Tinder and their you know, and their like dating profiles.
Oh, because it's quite
because they're always like, hey, I'm on top of a mountain. Hey, look at me doing muscly things and macho and really, you know, look, I'm so sexy. And they're almost killing themselves doing it.
Yeah, they do triathlons as well, don't they? And they always show themselves doing that, and hikes.
Yes.
These other macho
things.
I
can see how that's attractive, but I think it's less attractive to be dead. I would say, you know, that's not a look.
Yeah, that's a passion killer, isn't it? Yeah.
And also getting that mugshot right for Tinder when you're dead is really tricky.
It's really hard.
What's my best
What's
side?
my best?
Yeah, none of them, it turns out. Sunday Express next, and it turns out that my years of healthy living have hampered my economic future, Sajila.
So pensioners who to get £1,000 more in income if they smoke, binge or booze. Traditionally, you know, if you had an unhealthy lifestyle, you end up paying more for like insurance companies, you know, for financial services, because obviously, you know, they believe that you're more likely to claim on your policy, so set higher premiums to reduce the risk. But now this could all change as you approach retirement and consider buying annuity. Anonymity. I can't. There's certain words I can't say.
Annuity.
Annuity. That's it. Annuity. Look, just remember, I speak 5 languages. English was the last one. So suddenly being unhealthy works in your favour, and so this is great. So basically, if you're becoming a pensioner, just get the fags, the booze. You know, the hookers, the rent boys, whatever you've got to get.
So if your life expectancy is lower, you get more money.
Yeah.
Is that what the?
Yeah. Because but live hard and just go early, right?
I mean, bad advice.
I don't know. I've run out of my die young, stay pretty warranty. That ran out, so I'm going to go for this one.
It.
Yeah.
We've got many pretty years left. Andrew, you and I have to rely on our personalities. Let's talk about Barbie. Has she got much of a personality?
Barbie, well, yeah, I mean, it depends on your perspective. This is a story about how her creator's saying she's woke. People have often said about Barbie and Cindy, you remember Cindy was the UK equivalent, I think, that they promote an unrealistic body image. Barbie had Ken, of course, so that promotes an unrealistic standard of partner, because he was hot, right? Really hot.
He was, really.
Yeah, so you've got all of this, but then Barbie over the past few years has really gone for the whole woke thing, and sort of they've been gender neutral Barbies. Barbie has been doing all sorts of jobs, has come in all sorts of creeds, colours, all the rest of it. It's interesting, though, isn't it, that the creators say, yeah, she's woke, when we're told all the time that the word woke is just a right-wing slur that the right-wing people have invented. But then again and again, we keep hearing people describe themselves as woke, and that sort of blows that out of the water a little bit. But yeah, I think Barbie's a very inclusive doll, apparently. But ultimately, yeah, there's a shallowness to Barbie, isn't there?
Yeah, but she doesn't have any, I don't know if I'm allowed to say nipples.
Or you can most say
yes,
that.
nipples or anything down below.
Huh? Yeah.
You're saying she's not anatomically accurate?
No, she doesn't have anything below. So I'm just thinking she could, she's trans, so it's kind of...
You're saying Barbie's trans?
Yeah,
ahead of her time.
Trans, yeah.
Interesting.
Who knew?
But then Ken likewise is not anatomically accurate, apparently. I haven't checked.
And on that anatomical note, brings us to the end of the show. We are back for another Headliners tomorrow at 11. I'm in the hot seat from 9. See you then.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and every weekday we bring you The Briefing live from 9:30 a.m. The stories, analysis and live debate that you need to hear.
Quite right, Tom, of course.
Was this something that had been considered at all?
Difficult to answer.
Gas-guzzling helicopters circling. Noise is being made here.
Joe Biden walking out. Thank you very much for joining us. Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, Monday